when you hear a story that, you automatically start looking for certain things.
Right.
And you're going to find tonight, even with the way some of the things I'm going to tell you, I hold certain things back so that way you're not influenced by it.
Okay, but I'm not looking for something specific because you mentioned it.
I'm going to give you some things that are specific, but other things might pop up where it's going to be like, well, what the hell is that supposed to mean? And then I'm going to tell you if I know.
Gotcha.
So if I don't know, I'm not going to make shit up.
Okay.
First thing we're going to be using, and Kyle, this one's going to go to you. This is thermal imaging.
Okay.
So quick demo with this guy. You should be able to see me in there, red, orange, and yellow. If you take me out of the picture, the red, orange, and yellow goes somewhere else.
Right.
So we're going to try to keep somebody focused all night long if we can. Sometimes it's going to be impossible with just the 3 of us here. But there's also a blue dot that's bouncing around. You'll be able to see it closer once I hand it over to you. But that blue dot is giving us the coldest point in the frame at that particular moment. The blue and the black areas of the screen are the coldest areas. So it's going to just show a variance of temperature based on from white to black, black being the coldest. What we're looking for here is literal black and blue spots to either take shape or move on their own. So again, the blue dot just kind of helps guide us along. Let me get rid of that. So there's also, you're going to have a cheat sheet just from the very beginning and throughout the entire night. That's kind of like in-field only because it doesn't show up on the actual video.
Okay.
So it's going to give us your highest temperature and your lowest temperature at the very bottom. So you can kind of use that in-field only. Now, I am going to splice all of the videos together because I'm going to ask you to start and stop this thing several times throughout the night just because I guarantee you it is So it's the old adage that ghosts create cold spots, right? The chills, the hair standing on end, that kind of mentality. That's real. That's legit. So it just depends. I don't go based off people's feelings. I want the proof.
Gotcha.
So again, those blue and black spots, I have evidence of blue and black spots moving and taking shape into a person.
Okay.
It's those kind of mentality.
That's what we're looking for.
Right. We're literally looking for that kind of stuff to move on its own. What I will tell you, Kyle, is that people do not like to be filmed, nor do they like their cars to be filmed. So we're going to be in certain areas where I need you to not be so obvious as being a cameraman.
All right.
So you'll just casually be holding a cell phone.
Okay.
However, you're going to keep it horizontal all night long.
All right.
With the wiring being on your left. So the wire, you could probably feel the wire hanging off. That's where the camera is.
Okay.
So even when I tell you to stop it and you're going to restart it, make sure it's in that same position, horizontal, with the wiring to the left. So that way, because I'm going to splice it all, and YouTube doesn't know flippies. So if you flip it to the other side, it's going to be upside down. So that way you guys have a nice video to watch at the end of it. No pressure,
That's so fucking cool.
but that's how that one's going to work.
All right.
So, Tammy, let's get you situated. Yours is just as complex. So you're going to be using a spirit box.
Okay.
Have you ever used one of these before?
No, I've never used any kind of equipment.
Okay, so spirit box, you watch the TV shows?
A little bit, yeah.
It's basically the white noise, right? But mine are slowed down on purpose.
Oh.
I want you to hear the song lyrics, the DJs, the radio chatter, basically.
Yeah.
So if you can make something out of that, it's a 50-50 shot that I can tie it to the location of where we are, a person in history I'm talking about, or even something going on with one of us. It happens all the time. So whatever you hear, I'll be writing down, but this is also going to be recording the entire session for us. No outside noise. You will have an earbud that I don't want back.
Okay.
So that way you're going to be the only one to hear it tonight, but tomorrow
With the
morning,
video,
I'm going to
have it.
review it tomorrow and give you about 15 more markers, whether it's relevant or not.
Okay.
If it is relevant, I'm going to give you the reason why and then a backlink to verify it based on the story. So that way you guys can continue the research.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, again, you're going to be recording a good hour to an hour and a half worth of data, the regular audio plus this guy, and we're talking 4.5 to 5 hours worth of data.
Wow.
I'm not going to go through it all. That's what you guys paid for, right? That's what got you so excited. So I'm going to go through it for like an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah, just kind of edit and...
Right. Give you my notes, give you my analysis, and then give you some markers of things to either watch or listen to. So, again, I'm very... How do I put this? Very candid with everything.
No,
so with that, this way there's nothing being hidden, and you know that you're not just hearing it from your tour guide, it's actual legit hauntings. So you have one button to worry about. It is a wheel at the top.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a set of earbuds, and I'm going to plug them in, and then you'll have to undo like the little zip tie thingy, so that way you can put it in your ear.
Sounds good.
The hole can be hard to find, so especially since we're over here in the dark. And the creepy guy takes you to the dark.
That's what I brought back
right?
up, just in case.
Well, if it was just one person, I cancel it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I get that.
It's unsafe for both of us at that point.
No, that's definitely understandable.
So that goes over to you. I am going to throw an extra spirit box on me, and I'll show you how it works. It works a lot differently than yours.
Oh, okay.
And again, this is so I can get you the most amount of data and links that I can possibly throw at you. And I don't think this has to be said, but I do say it at every tour. If there's a skeptic among either one of you, I don't want to know who it is. The reason being, let's say Kyle's my skeptic, and I'm just going to say that. I don't need a software update now. Oh, good. Just because if Kyle was the skeptic, I would focus on him all night long.
Got it.
And then everybody else misses out on what's going on in real time. So this spirit box is an app, just so you know what this is. So this is going to give us a word in the center of the screen, just like an Ovilus would on your television shows. It's going to save all those words into a list. My last tour had 80 terms.
Wow.
So decent amount. It's about average, a little bit over. I'm going to clear them out to start us off fresh. 80% of what comes out of here is bullshit. It doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
So again, I'm completely candid. It's the other 5 to 20% where I'm like, oh wow, that's good stuff. Again, you're going to get the full list back, and I use it because it does provide timestamps next to every word. So that way, if something does come up that's relevant, I know to where to listen to the spirit box and to watch your video. So that's kind of how I do my analysis in the morning. So again, I'm going to keep this on me and pull it out from time to time to kind of see where it's at and see if any relevant terms are coming up.
Okay.
And kind of take it from there. I'd like to keep this on me. So I'll go in there for now. So, questions, comments, or concerns at this point?
No, this is very fantastic.
This is absolutely very fantastic. I love all the keywords. All right, so let's talk about why we started here. We start here at Big John's because, of course, it's haunted. And I don't like to go where all the other tours go. We're going to do a 50-50. The way I designed the tour is we're going to go to some spaces that don't have anything.
All right.
And then other spaces are going to be a little bit more touristy.
Gotcha.
So I do get a lot of tourists that come through and they're like, why the hell did we start here in the middle of nowhere? I'm like, well, there's a reason for it. But again, a lot of people, we're going to go to those empty spaces that used to be something, and some people get like, oh, why are we here? This is just a parking lot. No, it used to be something. So anyway, Big John's. You guys can slow me down too if I'm talking too fast. Like if I ever go too fast with something, that's another reason why I record it, because I know I talk fast. We just have a lot to cover.
All right.
Big John was a football player for the 1947 New York Giants. This was his bar. He used to sit in the back of the bar and tell the bartender if the cadets coming over from the Citadel if they were old enough to drink or not. One night, 2 guys come in. They're not old enough to drink. John has the bartender throw them out. They leave pretty pissed off. They come back the next night and they try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John gets pissed, gets up from the bar, and just starts beating the hell out of these guys, just pounding them right into the floor. A couple of gunshots go off. John gets hit in the neck, and the bullet lands in the wall. John gets up after being shot, and goes back to the bar and tells the bartender to get him another beer, get the 2 guys on the floor in an ambulance. So, the moral of the story is don't mess with Big John. He'll kick your ass, right? But nobody died in that story. What's haunting the place is the bullet hole. It's allegedly still here. I haven't been back in since they renovated the place, but even if it's not, John's blood is in the building. People that sit in the front of this building tend to get a little queasy, nauseous, headache, can't finish their food. It happens to my guests all the time, because I tell all of you to meet me right here. So they go to dinner here. Then they come back and they're like, man, I can't even finish my steak over there. I'm like, we're going to talk about that. But that's because that's what's haunting the place. I bring this up on purpose as kind of a heated warning because we are going to be dealing with paranormal activity tonight, fingers crossed. So if you guys feel any of those symptoms, I need to know immediately. It's a big deal. And I won't say that people haven't passed out from this tour in the past. I just had to call an EMT 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So it happens, I would say I probably get 4 or 5 of those a year now. So where people are just too much for them to handle.
All right.
So let's talk about something else, a little bit more happy that's not our own health. Have you guys taken any Charleston tours at all?
No, this is our first day here.
Oh.
Yeah, so we
you
started
guys.
with you.
Yep.
All right. Well, you're going to hear if you take any other tours that we had a big earthquake here in 1886. It's a big deal for us because this is the East Coast and we're not supposed to have earthquakes.
Right.
Allegedly, this building is where the first death occurred from that earthquake. The mantle you see in the middle, the white piece, also goes around the front to the East Bay Street side, and a piece of it broke off. Struck somebody in the back of the head, and it killed him. And they say you could see his ghost in the middle of the street in the middle of the night. I say apparently and allegedly a lot with that because I don't have any proof. It's just a great segue so the moms that I get on the tour aren't worried about their kids getting sick on the tour.
Right.
So, again, I do a little segue just to get people moving along. Let's go ghost hunting and learn more about your devices.
Yeah.
Alright, so when I have my groups of 10, like I always stop here because I have to show everybody a little bit more hands-on with their tools. It's a very quick stop. Normally, even with 10 people, it's usually only like 5 minutes. So this is the big red barn. This is where we keep the horses for the carriage rides.
Okay.
One of them. The horses are still in there, and yes, they can hear us. I try to tell people we can't be super loud here. One of the reasons why we use earbuds, because they don't like the white noise. They will kick the wall, scare the hell out of all of us. But anyway, the only history here is really simple. This is the same red barn that held horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston. That's it. That's all I got. So that's when I go into the whole discussion about spirit boxes, because normally when I have my group of 10, there's 4 of them that have spirit boxes. That's a lot. So I have to kind of give them a little bit more training on what to listen for and what to watch for, like the one in my pocket.
Yeah.
This is not TV. This is not, is somebody here? Like everybody wants to ask, right? Because if you hear no, somebody's here, right? So we stay away from yes or no questions. At least when I'm on one of my investigations, there's no yes or no questions. There's always specific details that I want to know. In a place like this where you've never listened to something like this before, we're going to ask the question, if somebody's here, tell me what color the big red barn is, right? So now we know what the answer is, and we know kind of what we're listening for, what to look for. However, the word red might not be in the vocabulary of the DJ, the song lyric, or the commercial that's coming through. But cardinal, heart, blood, fire truck, those 4 things are specifically red. I would take that as an acceptable answer.
Gotcha.
However, most of the night I'm going to try to require 2 different pieces of evidence to prove or verify what's actually going on. If you hear the number 40 and I get the word art on my word list, Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. Does that make sense? Where I have to put everything together?
Right.
Because the word art, we wouldn't think of it as a name, especially in today's age. We would think of it as a painting or a sculpture or something, right? So that's why I kind of like to look at things a little bit differently. Most of the stories I'm going to tell you tonight have multiple people with the same names. We're going to be talking about 19th and 18th century folk, right? So Charles's, George's, Elizas, these are a lot of the same common names. So we need to know who the hell we're talking to. So again, we always need 2 clues. Normally what I tell people is if you can't get any kind of answer out of what color is the big red barn, say what's inside the big red barn. So I'm always going to slow down on certain key words when I'm telling you stories. So over there, it was 1947, New York, Giants, and anything dealing with football, right? Obviously the name Big and John would hopefully be something too, but I need them together. So with that, the other, like what's inside the big red barn, delivery or anything relatable to a stable or a horse would be acceptable. Hay, you see where I'm going with this, right? Any kind of clue that says, hey, I found this word, I'm going to give it to you. Again, it's a 50-50 shot of what you're listening to, and it's not easy to do. I can already see your eyes wandering because you're trying to listen to both of us and going back and forth. She has a hard job. Now, when I listen to that in the morning, I'm going to spot check it. So for every 5 minutes of the recording, I'm going to listen to 1 minute. Whatever I find, that's what I write down.
Okay.
Because it could mean something. I don't care how small or little it is. Certain words I will omit. Words like Charleston. You're listening to Charleston radio stations. That's a given. Right? So I throw those out. I don't even want those. Or buy now. I don't want buy now because I know that that's a very cheesy new commercial. Right? So I look for certain things, especially odd things. And you're going to see what I'm talking about as we kind of go throughout the night. We're going to walk through this parking lot slowly and kind of see what pops up just so you can get a chance to learn how to listen to it. And we're going to go to our next stop. But I want you to really focus in on what you're hearing and just kind of blurt it out. Just like whatever have you heard anything yet?
No, it just says 87.5 online.
Did you do something to the button? Because it stopped all entirely.
Oh. Okay, now I'm sure.
Yeah, so the only thing you want is that wheel, not the button. So you must have stopped the button.
Oh, whoops.
That's okay. It happens. So again, I can always splice audio together too. I'm like an AV tech with all of this kind of gear. So let's just kind of walk slowly and see what's happening here. See how many words I'm getting.
Oh, that's cool.
Like 80% of them don't mean anything.
Right.
So I don't see anything in here. So.
No. I hear like different commercials going over each other. This is kind of funny.
Whatever will come out of that, that's what we'll kind of listen to.
Okay. like Kias and Sorrentos.
Okay.
I heard red.
Okay.
Is there any way to turn up the volume just a little bit? Or?
Yeah, that's what the wheel is for.
Okay.
The wheel controls the volume. But I'm going to tell you the history of why we're here. It's kind of indented a little bit. You were on it.
Right here?
Yep.
Okay. Just making sure I wasn't pressing anything right now.
Yep. Alright, so let's talk about this space. So now that you kind of have the gist of, like, yes, it's commercials and all that stuff is what
Gotcha.
I want you listening for. This is the Charles and Eliza Pinckney mansion site. So Eliza's mansion sat in the front of the lot facing East Bay Street. Her garden was right behind Five Church Restaurant and came all the way across, and the servant and slave quarters were in the back of the lot for the home. So they did own a lot of slaves, but the ones for the home lived on property. So who the heck were these people? They had a son named Charles, they had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different Charleses.
Already?
The son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. It's a pretty big deal to us, but you guys go on vacation, probably don't give a shit about our politics.
I don't care.
I don't talk long about politics at all. First off, I also want to tell you, I'm not going to give you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse. Right, you're going to have to get the answers from your spirit box.
Got it.
Eliza and Charles got married at when Eliza was pretty young.
Okay, I heard marry you in there. The second that you said get married.
This is going to be an interesting piece then, since we're already getting things. I'm not going to tell you how old she was, but I'll tell you she was young according to today's standards, not the colonial times that she came from.
Okay.
Charles was over double her age at the time. So that kind of gives you a gist of the numbers that she's going to be listening for. So her father over in England thought he was dying, and that he wanted to see all of his kids one last time. And instead she got married to Charles and kind of put her foot down. Now this wasn't for a green card or citizenship, because there was no such thing back then. We weren't even a country yet. So this was literally out of love, and after Charles died, she remained a widow for a very long time. So I'm not going to give you all these specific numbers and details on purpose. So once Dad got better, because Eliza was right, he wasn't dying right away, he started sending over gifts from England to this space where her home was. One of those gifts happened to be the plant indigo. You guys have been in town for at least a few hours. Indigo is a plant that makes blue dye that makes our blue jeans blue. That's how we use it today. The word indigo is all over Charleston, and now you know why. So it's not always warm here, as I'm sure you can feel, right? So she had to learn from her slaves how to keep this indigo cultivated in our weird weather. So once she had it figured out, she moves to a plantation just north of here, Mount Pleasant. Calls her dad and says, hey, rice plantations are going downhill, which means we can make a killing with our indigo. Can you give me some contacts to sell to overseas?
Yeah.
Now we have an international businesswoman in colonial times. Huge. Like, nobody talks about Eliza.
I heard first and cash.
I get the word cash here a lot.
Okay.
So, where was I? Oh, so let's get to the weird stuff about Eliza that you can actually ask about. Obviously, the marriage thing is weird, right?
Right.
Charles being over double her age. You can ask what happened to the mansion. He's obviously not here anymore. And then you can ask when that tragedy happened, and hopefully you get a year. Let's see. Eliza's children. I told you there's at least one. His name is Charles, right? He was signed the Constitution. There's more. You can ask how many and what their names are, but that's it. The reason why is because there's a tragedy among those children. If we poke the bear too hard, all activity will stop. It's almost a guarantee. I've seen it dozens and dozens of times. People get too curious when I can't gauge 10 people at a time. Somebody pokes the bear and we don't have any activity. It happened just last weekend.
When you said what happened in the mansion, I heard relax.
I'm sure she relaxed.
Right.
Eliza's death, you can ask anything you want to about. Like, hey,
Okay.
Eliza, how old were you when you died? What did you die from? Where are you buried? And what U.S. president was a pallbearer at your funeral? Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles. So now we're dealing with 3 Charleses and 2 Elizas. Ironically, both Elizas have a maiden name that starts with the letter L.
Interesting.
You can always ask which one we're speaking of. It's normally the one that planted the indigo, not the first wife, but sometimes the first wife likes to poke her head through. I think that's probably enough to get us started. We're
Yeah.
going to hang out here for a good 5 to probably 10, 12 minutes, depending on how much activity we get. Again, people with their cars, you want to kind of keep it low in here a little bit. And you also want to try to keep the sky out of view. The reason for that is that blue dot, as I'm sure you noticed, goes around the screen.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a surface to measure, so it's just going to default to go to the sky. So let's kind of cruise around a little bit, maybe do a few laps, real slow, and see what we can find. If I have to, I'll break out the we have the word no back, which is super weird. They wouldn't have had plumbing then, would they?
No.
I heard 92, but I know that's not how she was when she got married.
Damn close to the ear, though.
Oh.
I'm still writing it down, just because if it's something else specific. This pen sucks. I should grab a better one.
I think you're 9.
Nice.
9. Number 9.
And what did you say you heard before?
92?
92. You said something before that, didn't you? Cash.
Yes, cash and relax is what I've heard. I asked her about the kids. I heard 2, 24, and 99. I heard 2, 24, 99. But it might just be someone telling a price of something.
It could also be somebody's birthday. 99, I want to say, is irrelevant. I
Right.
can't put anything. Pretty cool tech, isn't it?
I love infrared stuff.
And I had that set up a certain way, so that way the blue dot's there and the center crosshairs are also there, so that way, and the color arrangement, it's just so much easier to see on this color scheme
Right.
than it is on the others. Mouse. Get you to hear anything else.
Not yet.
We got the EMF meter just so we can maybe find out. This back side of the bag, you can see it. Something's making it go off over here. That's my watch. Nothing in the bag that's on. So, do you guys familiar with the EMF meters? Have you guys seen those on TV?
Kind of, like I've seen it, but
So they measure electromagnetic fields. So anything that's going to give off any kind of signal, like your cell phone wiring, anything electrical. They're great for debunking certain things, but in this space, there's nothing underneath us. They've never done an archaeological dig here, never. So there's no reason any wiring or anything would be lingering around. So I get, some nights it's perfectly dead, like there's
Right.
nothing here. Other nights it spikes like some of the highest things I've ever seen. And I have another one that's a little bit more accurate, but this one's easier to see instead of trying to read a digital device. I don't know where the word Italian came up. Does that mean anything to you guys?
I work for an Italian company.
What's the company do?
Italy. Like, it's a huge marketplace. We have pastries and coffee and restaurants.
I mean, no relevance here. I just didn't know if something
Oh,
come
okay.
up relatable to that. Like you brought somebody with you, because that happens all the time too. So, I think
Interesting.
yeah, I mean
That's pretty cool.
when I have vets on the tour, forget it. It doesn't matter what story I tell. Everything we do is related
Oh,
to
I
that
can
vet.
imagine.
It's crazy. Alright, we'll do one more lap so you can listen in. If we don't get anything, we'll get you guys the answers and move on. Eliza, give us something I like to pass. First question. Anything at all?
I heard Sunday. When I asked her, how did you die, and I heard Sunday.
Now I gotta look up the specific date. I know the date. I think I know which actual day.
I heard something about diagnosed. And right before that, I heard church. And I hear bacteria.
All good. Give it another minute since you're actually picking up on stuff. I don't want to move just yet. Nothing at all?
I'm sure your mumble jumble, but not enough clear to make it out.
Okay. Alright, so let's get you guys some answers. Kyle, go ahead and hit that red square. We're gonna go past it a little bit anyway, like you kind of get past the window so nobody's pointing and
Yeah.
staring and all that stuff. Alright, so let me tell you where we're at. So this alley, when we crossed the last crosswalk coming over, that's where the original Charlestown wall used to be. Charleston used to be called Charlestown,
Oh.
the walled city. This is one of the first streets we ever had. So you're walking on original cobblestones.
Oh, cool.
And we're going to talk about those in just a second. So we just left Pinckney Mansion, where that's an intelligent ghost. This is more of a residual. So this isn't a place where we ask questions. It's also a quiet area because it's a hotel, just so you know, my voice went down a little bit. But residual ghosts are basically like watching a movie over and over and over again, right? So you don't ask questions, you just kind of wait for things to happen and figure out why it happened. With this space, I have the full list of residents of every person that's ever lived here. There is a Paul on that list. But I will tell you that the names I commonly get are Benjamin and John. Here's the weird thing. They both lived here in 1801. And when I say people lived down here, it was only like 2 to 5 people at a time.
Oh, wow.
Like, it wasn't a whole lot. So the fact that I get Benjamin and John about every 6 to 7 weeks, I don't find that ironic. They both lived here in 1801. Do I have anything significant about 1801? Nope, sure don't. Just the fact that I got 2 guys' names that show up all the time when I'm down here every 6 to 7 weeks, and every once in a while a third name will pop up, the name Jane.
Oh.
Also 1801. 3 out of 5 people, not too shabby. We're walking on, like I said, the original cobblestones. These are called Belgian blocks. They are made straight from granite. You guys have heard of limestone on your paranormal shows. Same principle. This is straight from the earth, just like limestone. This is said to hold on to consciousness of memories. So it makes sense why we're getting the same names over and over and over again. It's like I'm watching a 6 to 7 week long movie and I just come in at the tail end. And that's it. That's all I get. We also get things wrapped around the Freemasons here. This is before people lived here. The Freemasons had their Masonic lodge here. Hence the name Lodge Alley. So, Freemason, Mason, Brick, Illuminati. Like, I've gotten all of these terms, and I chuckle too every time it comes up. because it's like, really? You're going to just play right into that conspiracy theory? Let's do this. Give me more. But again, they did do an archaeological dig underneath these bricks. They did find some of the people's clothing and tools and shit, and they were able to classify them as lower class. It makes sense for two reasons. First off, these two buildings weren't here. It's little tiny shotgun houses. So if you're not familiar with that, it's 1 to 2 room houses. But across the street is where the other side of the wall was, going down East Bay Street. The smell of low tide would have been coming down here. None of the rich people are going to live here. So that's one reason why the houses down on the end, you're going to see on the Battery, are skinny in the front and long back, because they didn't want the smell of low tide coming through. You're also going to see the front porches, which are basically on the side of the house. They have a door on them to keep that smell from coming in. They keep the top windows open, so that way they can get the air conditioning to go through the whole house, because you're going to get the breeze over from the water. That's one reason. The other reason is that you're taxed based on how much street side of the street you took. So the skinny in the front makes sense. The Pinckneys, however, if you remember, were broad.
Right.
They're bragging. We have money, we don't care, we'll pay your taxes. They're also outside the original Charlestown walls. So again, they're probably not going to have as much as they would if they were lived down here inside the walled city, but they still said, screw you, our house is beautiful, and we have money, we're going to prove it. So that's, when you're walking around and you see the architecture around here, like, that's one thing I'll point out, and I won't flood you with architecture because it can be very daunting and boring. So just get little tidbits of it as you kind of go throughout the city from your different guides. Have you heard anything else while we were here?
I heard husband.
That's interesting.
Right before you bought the Pinckneys.
Okay.
Like we were talking about air conditioning, and I heard husband, and I was like, okay.
Okay. I don't have anything relatable to a husband. I'll write it down as we kind of move forward. What we're going to do from here is you're going to continue filming until we reach the end of the alley, and then you're going to shut it off. Okay. Just because we're going to be cutting through a neighborhood. I'm literally taking you right on the cusp of where tour guides are allowed to take you, even though this isn't a typical tour. Right. You still have to follow the laws. Right. The next alley we go to, I can't take you down like what we're doing here. Oh. Reason why is because I've been booted out. You gotta imagine I have laser lights and loud noises and gizmos and gadgets, and I'll explain more once we get there, but it's a beautiful alley. I still tell the story. We still get a lot of evidence based off of it. I haven't checked my list in a minute. You're supposed to be yelling at me. Oh. Like, hey, check out your shit. We do have the word constitutional, which is interesting, considering we've been talking about the Pinckneys for the past hour. But Katie, I doubt anybody from the...
Was named Katie?
Yeah, Katie. Print in chief. I don't know that that's going to be anything either. I'll dive into it to see if there's any kind of printing press, somebody that worked like at a printing press that lived here. So I'll kind of take a look at that. That's an interesting piece.
I heard poor little bird, and then I heard yeah.
Other people have reported from my tours children laughing on your spirit box.
Interesting.
Yeah. So not to put things in your head.
Yeah, but I haven't heard any laughter yet.
But it's usually in that same 6 to 7 week where we get a Benjamin or John, or both of them together. We get some kids laughing.
Yeah, the only name I heard was Paul.
But still, there's a Paul on that list. It was Paul Winthrop, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. And you're going to get the full list. So when I give you the link, it'll take you to the full list. It'll tell you what page to go through so you can see it all. And it's not a long list, and I don't have it memorized. I should, because I've been staring at it for the past 2.5 years. Yeah. But I know the name Paul is on there for certain. It's just the barkeeps from the restaurant. Yeah. So, all right, let's take a hike. Let's see what we can do. So, married? Like, what's going on here? What's the
No, we're just dating.
Okay.
Just because he gives me his flight benefits. That's what I tell him.
What you say all day.
That's what I say all day long.
That's why I hate to assume anything.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Today's world,
I've never been dating long enough where people are like, was that your husband? I'm like, sure. Whatever you
It's true.
A lot of times, I'll get like, hey, tell your dad. And like, that's my uncle.
Oh my god. No, I don't assume. I'm like, oh, who's that?
That's definitely catchy. Pops up. Obviously, I'll be reviewing it tomorrow morning. But the story goes, there was a doctor that moves down here from Rhode Island. His name was Joseph Brown Ladd. So he moves down here because his fiancée Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from his parents. She has an attorney that's helping handle all this money. He thinks the doctor's just after her cash. He's not. But he tells her to get rid of the doctor, and so she does. He moves to Charleston to prove that he's not just after her own money. He's going to start his new practice down here and prove that he's not. So the coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed. So it wasn't a very good start. So somebody walking by with the name Ralph Isaacs, and I slow down on that because we're going to stop there for just a minute. Ralph's initials are R.I. They're the same as where the doctor came from, Rhode Island. R.I. is shown up here several times, but I always need the secondary clue so I know if it goes to the doctor or does it go to Ralph himself. Again, just point that out. So Ralph says, hey dude, you don't want to stay here, this guy's going to try to kill you. There's a guy inside with a gun and they're going to rob you. I have a place where you can stay at 59 Church Street. That's the next block up. And he says, you can stay there. I got some friends of mine, you can rent the room. So the doctor does, rents the room, and the doctor and Ralph become friends. So the doctor's practice takes off. He's making his own money. Amanda's moving down soon. He becomes known as the whistling doctor because he whistled all the time. He's pretty a jovial character. So every haunted city you'll ever visit.
Singing.
Close. I've gotten the word whistling here.
Okay, I just heard
and
singing.
actual whistling on there, which is very interesting. We're going to talk more about that. But every haunted city, I think Savannah even has a haunted somebody too. Like, we all have ours is a
I
doctor.
feel like every place has some kind of haunted something.
But this one's legit.
No, this is really cool.
So, where was it? Oh, so he's making lots of money. Him and Ralph go see plays together, but they can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. He gets better seats.
Oh.
So they talk about the plays on the way home. One night they go see William III from Shakespeare. No, I can't tell you from which theater because there was dozens. No tour guide can. They're lying if they say they can. But anyway, they're talking about this play, and the doctor thought the actress was great. The new actress that was in town, and Ralph, not so much. He didn't know. They started arguing. It was fine, just a little heated argument until Ralph started insulting the doctor's fiancée back home. So they obviously get pretty pissed at each other. They go their separate ways.
And Captain.
Oh, wait a minute. You're getting into all kinds of stuff here. Kill. Which usually is the first.
Oh.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Just because Captain is relative to another story later on, and I normally get things from Philadelphia Alley as we continue on because we're still relatively close. So it's weird that we're getting things from that pirate story over here. So they start arguing, blah, blah, blah. It's all on the fiancé. Ralph is from here, so he goes to his friends at the newspaper and he puts an ad in the paper and tells the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. So kind of a jerk move, but the doctor sees it, of course, and he rebuttals with, let's go to the news alley. We're going to settle this. So they come down, they take their 20 paces, they turn. The doctor points his gun in the air, and he shoots. He didn't want to kill his friend. He just wanted to have the courage and bravery to show up to the fight, which is often what happened during a duel, regardless of whatever you see on Hamilton. Especially when I have my teenagers here.
I just heard it half a second of classical music.
Half a second. So, Ralph still has his one shot. He puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. He didn't want to kill his friend either, but he also wanted to make it friend. The doctor doesn't die. He's carried home to 59 Church Street by his friends, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. You have to remember, this guy's a doctor. He probably tried to heal himself by bloodletting. Right? So again, it's pretty nasty. I'm just seeing if anything is coming up.
I heard PayPal.
No.
That's very modern.
Definitely no PayPal back in 1700s. So they say as you walk through the alley, you can hear the whistles from the doctor. This is where I used to take my groups all the way through. You would be listening to the voice recorder at that point. Everybody would have their spirit boxes turned down. This was before we had earbuds. That way you could focus on this guy. However, there's a mansion at the end of this. We're not allowed near residences. So we came out screaming one night. We haven't been back since. Now, the interesting thing is that the dates are relative to the very last story of why I had to reroute this tour. And it's almost like karma told me that I had to reroute to go tell the story of this next person. So you're getting used to listening to that, which is good.
Yes.
So the next portion that we're going to go to, and by the way, this is the most picturesque place we have. So if you're a camera person, day and night, it's perfect lighting. It's also very quiet. I also invite you to turn your voice recorders on and listen to it later. I just can't take you down here. You guys as guests, as tourists, you guys can walk around, but me as a tour guide, not going to happen. What happened basically was that the bricks at the end of this, I always pointed out that those bricks are older. Remember I told you it didn't come all the way this way? So the bricks on the other side, the Queen Street side, are much older. Those are some white bricks from slave days. We have a full handprint and fingerprints at the end of the alley. And I always
ever win.
I point them out because it just shows how far we've come, from slavery, especially when I have mixed diversity in my groups. So one night, that's where my people always want to put a spirit box or an EMF meter near it. Like, guys, it's like the cemetery I told you about at the Pinckney. It's not, the kid doesn't want to stare at the brick.
Right.
Like, he's going back home with his mama.
Oh, yeah.
You said nobody ever wins?
This is nobody ever, and then this is a win-win.
Wind shows up here a lot, so does tournament. Very interesting. So when you're getting good stuff, and it's just a matter of, you also have to remember, and I think I pointed this out at the beginning, is normally when you're doing an investigation, 40% of it comes from in-field. The other 60% of what you're going to find comes from the research. Like, it's that serious. That's why I give you guys that much more back. Because that's where it's all going to put together, and you can see the pieces and move them around instead of like, oh my god, what could this be related to? You know, you're trying to figure it out on the fly. When you can sit down at your computer, your phone, and really go through it, it's like, oh shit, it actually did mean something. Alright, so the next part is myths and legends. So again, if you want to continue filming, you can. Up to you, it's your tour. I just like to get a little bit of footage straight down the alley as we're sitting here talking and see if it pops up. But you guys are going to be able to sit down for a few minutes because there's a little ledge there. I'll kind of point out a few things, and we'll wait to see if you hear anything. Also getting into the more popular areas.
Okay.
You're going to see little pockets of tours here and there.
Yeah, sure.
Where are you guys staying at?
We're staying up in North Charleston, near the airport.
Okay. By Tanger or over on Ashley Phosphate?
It's over by the convention center.
Okay.
Right there.
I know where you are.
And we're actually going to drive down to Savannah tomorrow while we're here too, so.
I do want to point something out, but it's hello. Uh-huh. So, back there, that's the wall to Philadelphia Alley. You can see the doorway in the middle.
Yeah.
There's a gate there, just like this wrought iron gate. That was used because I told you that the alley didn't go all the way through, so if there was a loser to the duel, the dead guy, that was a shortcut to get over to St. Philip's Cemetery. Just so they didn't have to walk all the way down to Queen Street and come all the way around.
Right.
So it was just a shortcut so they could go, celebrate with a pint for the winter. So, anyway, if you guys want to have a seat here, you can. You can stop your picture taker.
Oh, that is
Once we get closer to the wall, like over that way, that's a perfect spot. But if you want to grab a picture, that's fine. I want to check on the voice report. Apparently my phone has been blowing up. Just like I texted you this morning, that little green dot, that's common.
Oh, come on.
You'll see that.
Oh, I got it covered.
Let's talk about this pirate. You recording or you
Yeah,
not recording?
yeah, I record.
Okay. Alright, let's move to the back just in case people need to come in and out of here. We're literally on the other side of the cemetery, by the way. So just over behind me is John Calhoun.
Oh,
Alright. Have you heard anything in the past minute or two? Nothing? Okay. Alright, this story's kind of a whopper, so you might
I
want
could have sworn I heard either Pirate's latest or Pilot's latest. pilot or pirates latest?
But I also said the word pirate several times.
So yeah, so maybe it's just in my head that you said that.
Probably. So this location, we're actually going to be talking about the Powder Magazine. That is the oldest government building in South Carolina. It was finished in 1713, and I think Texas has some weird stuff. What's the oldest stuff you guys have seen over there? Do you have dates? I'm just trying to like put a timeline to this. Nothing that you know of?
Not that I know of offhand.
Okay. This held gunpowder for 7 different wars. That's the interesting thing about it. But I told you guys about the Charlestown Wall earlier. This is the street where the wall existed. Right here where that garage is. They went up past the Powder Magazine and then started going south behind me towards the battery. It was locked into the corners of the wall on purpose. So if it got struck by a Revolutionary warship or a pirate ship from 3 blocks away, the distance of it would make it very difficult to go through the 32-inch thick walls to protect the gunpowder. But we're going to pretend that that cannonball goes all the way through and blows it up. There's sand in the roof from 1712. The reason for that is that the sand will blow up with the explosion instead of going through out on the walls and then fall to put out the fire of the gunpowder. Great idea, it just doesn't work.
I heard that's from 10 years ago.
Well, 10 is how long it took to build this thing. It took 10 years.
Alright.
Interesting.
Yeah. I will point out with spirit boxes, as slow down as I have those, what color is the big red barn? Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I don't need Rudolph the Nosed Reindeer. I just need red.
Right.
So it's going to pick up words before and after certain things. That's why when you say 10 years ago, I just need 10 years.
Got it.
So remind me to write that down because that's a big one. So, by the way, those are not crosses on the building. Those are earthquake bolts. Earthquake bolts, that just behind those is that if we have another earthquake like what we did in 1886, which we haven't because this is South Carolina, you can tighten up those earthquake bolts slowly because they're on a turnbuckle, and it's supposed to straighten the building back up. It's another great idea, but that doesn't work either. I talked to a lot of Californians. That shit don't work.
Yeah.
So those are the very first set of earthquake bolts that we put in around the city. So you're going to see them all over the place. You're going to see them as square platelets, as you kind of do on this apartment building behind it. Mm-hmm. You'll also see them as lion heads and pineapples and all kinds of weird stuff. It's just part of the Charleston charm.
That's cute.
So the reason I bring up this building and the reason why I bring you here is because we're now dealing with a familiar ghost. The building is familiar based on its age. It took 10 years to build this, like we figured out, 1703 to 1713. The story actually begins in 1708, right in the middle of its construction. All right, you might want to turn down just because there's a lot of twists.
Okay.
So, a young lady moves here from Ireland. Her name is Anne Cormack. She moves here with her father and his mistress. The mistress is her mother. You guys with me so far?
Yes.
The 3 of them are getting away from his wife. So they're going to the Americas from Ireland to get away from an angsty woman.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So they land in Georgetown, which is literally just north of here on the way to Myrtle Beach. It's in between. They buy a plantation. Mom dies pretty quickly. So that means Dad has to send young Anne down here to Charlestown to sell anything from the plantation to keep things afloat. Anne back home in Ireland was kind of a badass. They say she killed one of her servants with a knife to the belly. So she was like 7 or 8 years old when it happened. Yeah, right before they moved here.
She chose violence.
Yeah, little bit of anger there. So we're going to fast forward. The building's done in 1713, still familiar. 1715, 2 years after that, pirates are coming through town, and she is stoked. She falls in love pretty quickly. This is guy number 1. Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep tally for you. There's a few of them. James Bonney. Dad doesn't approve because James is a filthy pirate. So they run away to Jamaica and get married. Anne Cormack becomes Anne Bonny, your most famous female pirate of the Golden Age. Now, when she gets down there, James is not the Captain Jack Sparrow that she wanted. He's a privateer, spy for the British. He's a coward in her ass. So this isn't who she wants. She falls in love again a few years later. This guy's name is John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. We will refer to him as Jack through the rest of the story, so there's no confusion. Lots of J's, right? So, got James Bonney, John Rackham, Calico Jack. So 3 J's. Hard to keep track of them. When I first started this story, I'm like, oh, shit. It's hard to keep track of. But anyway, Jack, he has his own ship. He is the Captain Jack Sparrow that she wants, and she wants to be part of the crew. But females curse pirate ships. You can't put a girl on the crew. He makes a deal with her. If you dress like the guys and hide your gender, I'll put you on the crew, but you're going to be a female in my quarters. I'm the captain. So she agrees to it because Dad used to dress her up as a boy back home in Ireland to keep her away from his wife. So she's like, whatever. I got to do what I got to do.
Oh, jeez.
Let's put 2 and 2 together. Being a female in the quarters, she's going to get pregnant, right? So can't have a pregnant pirate guy on the crew. Somebody's going to figure it out. He drops her off in Cuba. before she starts the show and says, yeah, I got friends here, have the baby, come back later, we'll figure it out. So, keep in mind, she's still married to James Bonnie this entire time. Calico Jack tried to buy the dowry from Bonnie, and Bonnie refused.
Oh.
So she's still married.
Legally.
Last husband, yeah. Has the baby, she comes back, there's no baby. We have no idea what the hell happened to this child.
Oh.
She's also dressed like a female. She doesn't give a shit anymore about hiding her gender. This makes Jack mad, and Jack just captured another pirate crew that's down below deck, and she's going to go flirting, because that's what Anne does. Told you, keep in mind on her mentality. This is the third guy, by the way. This guy she's flirting with turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy, to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack just captured. Now we have two females doing the exact same thing on the exact same ship. So that's unheard of. This young lady's name is Mary Reed. She convinces Mary to become part of the crew, and the two become friends or lovers. It is up for speculation. So, the British find out where they are. They send their entire fleet to come take down one pirate ship. It's a big fleet coming in from the British. It's only Anne and Mary that are not drunk enough to come up and fight with their one-bullet muskets to defend the ship. Obviously, they're going to get taken. The British are arresting everybody. Anne looks at Jack and she says, you should have fought like a man instead of going down like a dog. So, that's a quote. The judge, I told you, his name was Nicholas Laws. He wants to see the two men after he tried and hung Calico Jack and all the men that were too cowardly to come up and fight. So, the two ladies go in front of the judge. They reveal their gender, hoping to save themselves, because be a female pirate, there's no such thing. He doesn't care. They're still pirates in his eyes. So, we plead our bellies, meaning they're both claiming to be pregnant.
Oh.
You can't hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So, he says, fine, we'll send you both back to jail, and we'll delay your hanging. Dad is still here. The baby, yeah. Right, till you have the baby. Dad is here in Charlestown with all of his Irish money. He bails out Anne, brings her back home. She remarries again. Guy number 4, husband number 2. Has 4 children and dies at the age of 84. Oh. That's all we know. As far as Mary Reed goes, she died a year later in 1721. We don't know if her pregnancy was true either, from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. It was probably bumpy and scurvious and gross and nasty and use your imagination. Yeah. So, with this particular space, you get to ask whatever you want to. However...
Did either one of them have a big brother? An older brother?
No. Okay. There are only 2 things that I left out that I can really prove for certain. The name of Calico Jack's ship, which is always a good, fun question to have. And then the name of Anne Bonny's parents, which would be her father and his mistress at the beginning of the story. I leave those names out on purpose. Obviously, I have them. You don't, to see if they pop up on the spirit box. I told you at the beginning of this tour that people pass out on my tour. Mm-hmm. Over this past summer, I bring my group down here. The group is 7 or 8, pretty decent size for me. And the kid next to me goes white as a ghost and starts to drop. Like, I pick him up by the elbow, pick him up, take him over to the wall to sit down. I send his boyfriend over to go get a bottle of water.
Yeah.
He comes back, dude's drinking his water, he's feeling better. I tell the story. Everything's going okay. I send everybody out with their devices, go have fun, let me know what you find. They pull me aside. We got to tell you something, Nick. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Because I'm thinking they're just going to tell me something's really wrong with this guy. We are 2 transgender males, meaning I had 2 females dressed as men on my tour.
That's crazy.
And it made complete sense as to why one of them
felt sick.
Right, as soon as we got here, and they didn't even know the story yet.
Wow.
So that's why I point
out. Gave me chills.
So it's relevant to the story. The other piece, I told you the dates thing about coming over here and being kicked out of Philadelphia Alley. That was November 26th, 2020. I took Thanksgiving off, which was November 27th. I started coming over here November 28th because I know the Anne Bonny thing was popular. I didn't know much about it, and I didn't even believe the story, to be quite honest. Somebody hears the number 300. I'm like, okay, that's whatever. So I wrote it down and I looked it up the next day, and turns out November 28th was the exact 300th anniversary of Anne and Mary's trial in front of the Chief Justice.
Oh, wow.
It was November 28th, 1720. So, again, there must have been some kind of karmic reason for me to be able to be here and to tell this story instead of going down and telling the other stories that I was telling on the corners. So we're going to go have a seat along that wall and kind of just listen in and see what happens. I'll be watching. Actually, let me check the spirit box before we move. You're going to see people coming in at a Dave. That's really weird. What happened?
Oh.
I don't want that yet.
Oh.
You need to turn it up.
Oh.
I said I need to check this spirit box.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I mean, we got a decent amount here. I'm just not seeing a whole lot. Insects itching. Like, that's weird. And the name Dave. That's so weird. Random Dave showing up. So yeah, let's kind of just walk slowly and go have a chill out on the wall, and we're going to try not to film those people that are going to come into their cars. You can leave it on, just don't be pointing
Yeah.
at them. You got the gist. You seem pretty responsible. It's usually the quiet guys that I can hand stuff like that to. I say, not have to worry. Oh, but you heard 10
Friends
years.
and lovers.
You got a lot here.
Your friends and lovers.
You also have 10 years. That's big. So what else do you guys have planned while you're here? I'm sorry, I know you're trying to listen.
Oh no, we just had the 2 food tours. We're gonna go to the aquarium.
Okay.
We're gonna try to go to the Firefly Distillery.
Okay.
And then I know we're going to try Callie's Hot Little Biscuit.
I don't need out, so
Okay.
yeah, all these.
I heard ship and get the Sprinter.
That's what you heard?
Ship and Sprinter or Splinter. Get that Splinter or Sprinter.
That's interesting.
Do you do any other tours besides this one? This is it?
I do one a night. And I just opened back up to 7 nights a week, just so that we can plan a little bit better around our hurricanes that come in.
Oh, that's true. You're by the water.
Yeah.
I forget. I heard cat.
Damn cat.
And obviously I heard country, but I forgot to talk about country music.
Yeah. What did you say you do for the airlines?
So I'm an administrator I work for American.
Okay.
So I've been doing that I've been with American for 6.5 years. So I've been doing that job for 2.5.
Okay.
So I schedule all the people, I schedule all the pilots and flight attendants and all that. So it's
I
pretty
hear
good
easy,
job.
but I hear Adele's go easy on me. And then limited time. Focus on family.
Yeah, I write books during the daytime. I just started this tutoring gig because that's what all my degrees are in.
Oh, you're an English major?
Yeah, well, English master.
Oh, wow.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to correct you like that. It
Oh,
sounded
no,
very
no.
arrogant.
Not at all.
But,
No, you worked hard for it. I would say it too.
again, I was like driving Uber Eats during my slower season, and my wife said, "Why the hell are you doing this?"
Was it worth it, like the money for the stress that you do take?
No,
I'm
not
sure
anymore.
it's not easy.
During the pandemic the height of it,
Yeah.
I was making like $30 an hour, which
Oh, it's not that bad.
Which
The tips
actually-
and stuff
yeah.
kind of
It-
worked out well.
right. It actually filled in really nice when we weren't allowed to tour. So I mean, I was just driving 40 hours a week. I mean, I was a retail manager making 6 figures before all of this, so I was really used to that salary. So for me to have like a week or two where I have like 2 here, 4 there,
Right.
you know what I mean? It was kind of like, shit, how the hell are we gonna pay the bills? So I got to pick up Uber, and then my wife came up with this tutoring thing. She's like, what if you just went online and started tutoring? At least you'd be home and not
So
blowing
do
money
you
on
teach
gas.
or do you tutor like English speakers? Or is it non-English speakers or both?
English speakers.
Oh, okay.
So, like the students, today was my first day, to be honest
Oh,
with
okay.
you. I dealt with nothing but college essay papers.
Okay.
A lot of
Okay.
citations,
So
Alright.
a lot of thesis statements.
okay, so more delved into it. Not like I'm learning English, help me, or
Right, yeah,
here's
it's not
the
English learners,
paper.
no.
Okay.
No, it was more like collegiate material.
Gotcha.
Which was perfect. Like I was a little nervous getting in. Like we always had that imposter syndrome. Like, do I really belong here? But once I started diving in, it just came like nothing. You know, it's all chat. You know, and giving links and providing help and looking over papers and leaving notes. for them.
Correcting it or
Yeah.
awesome.
giving them notes. That's really neat, though.
So it was hopefully
A friend of mine was an English lit major, and she would write papers for people. And I was like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, they need help, but don't do that.
Yeah, I have an English bachelor's, a bachelor's in journalism, And then I just finished my master's last year in creative writing.
Oh, that's cool.
So
that's really cool.
we'll be publishing my 8th book this year.
That's
awesome.
That's all
Okay,
fiction.
I heard 99 one day only.
Shoot Howard Hardy. 99 years later is when the photographer.
I heard Joe or Jody?
It was probably Joe, because we're still close to the alley. Remember I told you they kind of get a little
Yes.
reversed? So Joseph Brown Ladd was the doctor. But we're going to be publishing a paranormal field guide. Because my blog and podcast are really informative.
Yeah, I saw that you did a podcast, so I don't want to get creeped out at night listening to it, so I skipped it.
It's a lot of, just the way you and I talk tonight.
Okay.
It's the places I go to aren't necessarily creepy. It's just what I'm
The
finding.
history behind it.
Right. And then I just hired a co-host. So she's bringing her expertise to the table. And she's still learning a lot of things too, but between her brain and mine, it's a lot of okay, how do we classify these EVPs? That's our next episode we're working on. How do you distinguish which one is which? So forth and so on. But it's a lot of ghost hunting 101, so I'm going to be putting a lot of all the blog posts and stuff into one giant field guide.
Oh, awesome.
So hopefully that'll be released next year if I can get my wife to do the cover. But she's got a lot of work to do because she's got to finish the cover for this fiction for this year. So writing. That's all I do. Still on the lot, huh? Where did you guys end up parking?
In front of T-Bones.
There you go.
Over
It was
in
a
that
restaurant.
area.
T-Bones?
By where we started? Up the street?
Yeah, it was.
wasn't
Yeah,
too far
not too
from where
far
we
at
were.
all.
Well, we're
It
still
was
not
called
too far.
T-Bones Grill or something like that. And there was another a ghost tour thing, it was very touristy looking, and there was a shop selling stuff, and the guy was like, "Oh, the meters are free. Are you guys here for the ghost tour?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "No, not this one." I was like, "No, that's true. There's more than one here."
There's 1,000. There's hundreds.
That's all I can imagine.
It's. I don't want to say it's cutthroat.
Yeah, because when I Google Charleston ghost tours and things to do, I found at least 5 or 6 of them, and I was like, okay, which one looks more interesting? Because they're all about the same price. Prices are about they start at 30 and then they went up.
Yeah, I'm a little higher than most, just because I got.
To me, that's average from whenever I've done tours.
Really?
It's about 30 to 40, and then I saw what you were offering. I'm like, done.
Yeah, with the equipment, I got to pay for batteries.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why I was just even if it's a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because everything else is about the same.
It was
we go
25
here,
bucks,
here.
just so I can learn the ropes and get all the reviews. You guys read the reviews, I'm sure. That was another reason why but I needed the build up of the reviews, so the prices were really low when we first started this, and now I'm obviously, I think what am I at, 45?
Yeah, I think it was 45 plus tax or whatever.
Yeah, so we debated going up to 49 just because to prove hey, why is this guy 49 and everybody else is at 40?
Right.
Try to get that overlook, what the hell is this guy doing?
Because of what you were offering, I don't mind paying the extra.
And also that I'm 5 stars on every website you'll ever find.
Because I was just looking through and everybody was about the same. They might be going to different areas than someone else and oh, we're doing this, we're doing that. Then it was oh, you get to keep the recording. I'm like, done. So I asked him and he goes, let's just go to normal one. I'm like, no, let's do this one. I'm like, if you don't want to go, I'll go alone. I don't care.
I didn't know.
Well, I know.
What to expect, so.
I know. Unless I'm like, I have never seen this, let's do it. If you don't like it, you don't like it.
Well, I've even converted quite a few skeptics, and the people that don't have a good time on a story don't understand it. That's the problem. They want something that's kind of jump scare type.
Or I see apparition right here touching me, or I felt someone behind me.
Yeah, no.
No. I don't want that kind of encounters.
Well, there's also things inside my bag that keep us protected.
Okay.
I've gone home with stuff that you guys have brought with you. I'm that guy. So they usually go home with me. So if you were to bring somebody that you could communicate with, they're going home with me.
Okay, if that happens, please tell me.
Well, they usually won't anymore because I'm balanced out before I even get here.
Okay, so
me
you
carrying
won't
the
know.
bag full of crystals.
So
all the equipment is lying.
Yeah.
So that way you guys aren't getting the attachment either.
we went to, where did we go? To Nashville, right? 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So we went, and I found this lady on Airbnb. So she's a psychic, and we met at a bar. And it was really interesting. We had a drink, we're chatting, just to kind of get casual. And then she's like, okay, I'm reading this off of you, I'm seeing this. And she's like, I hear things, or hear voices. And she's just telling me stuff, and I started crying because she was that accurate about stuff. And I'm just like, that's a gift. Like,
I
not like,
I have
oh,
very
I see.
few people that I've met, and most of my close circle of friends are psychics or mediums that I trust. And normally, if I'm calling them, they already know why I'm calling.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just
I mean,
crazy.
she was very spot on with me about the stuff that I was going through, so I'm like, cool.
Well, that's a person you need to hang on to.
Right,
At
like-
least stay in contact.
I wish I could. Like, I found her on Airbnb, now I can't find her.
Because most of them are charlatans. Like, they're...
I figured. Most of them are, they'll tell you what you want to hear,
Mhm.
or what you think you're leaning towards.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know, like, there's a whole mediumship testing thing that they have to go through to kind of prove their abilities. And then once they go through that test, they kind of teach them how to interpret things and how to say things back to them, so that way you're not giving bad news, you're not giving any negativity. I don't normally trust those people. I want the people that are going to tell me, like, hey, your kid's going to get sick.
I'd
Be
rather know
straight
that.
up with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was just telling me, okay, I see this, and I see him doing this, and then I was able to interpret. She was just telling me, this is what I'm hearing, or this is what I see, not like I see a man and he wants to talk to you.
Yeah.
She's like, I see this, I see him doing this, and then I asked her about, someone on the. It was just really neat that she wasn't asking me questions to tell me what I wanted to hear.
Well, I usually try to hold back as much as possible, especially from, like, at
Well,
a psychic
something like
fair.
this, yeah, you don't want to put ideas in my head.
Well, not only that, but when I'm going to a psychic fair and I'm going to sit down with a psychic,
Okay,
first off,
you
I
hold
know,
back.
I try to look for, I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody loves the tarot deck, but I appreciate somebody that knows how to read the old gypsy style playing cards.
Oh,
So, like, I know how to read them. My grandmother knew how to read
that's
them.
really cool.
So, like, when they sit down with it and I can see, like, what they're telling me isn't real, like, I'll flat out tell them, like, that's not what you're seeing there at all.
Right.
Like, I already know what these cards mean, and this is not what you're telling me. So I'll get up and walk away. I won't ask my money back, but I will call somebody out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I took the roll of the dice. I threw the $50 down or whatever
You
they're
said,
charging.
okay, cool. Like in New Orleans, they'll have so many people on like Jackson Square doing a reading for like $10 or whatever. And you don't know how legit they are.
They're
People
making
just
like
do it for
$10.
fun.
Any other terms before I wrap this up?
I heard my daddy, but
That's a possibility. I don't have anything else. So the two answers to the questions, I'm going to leave this guy running as I collect your devices. The name of the ship was called the Kingston. I don't
Okay.
expect the word Kingston to come through your spirit box, but I will expect the word king. Yeah, let's turn it down. Did you turn it down before you?